And now for a special ground report from the US. As we track Prime Minister Modi's state visit, we also reported on issues that make news in America. Obviously, guns featured in our list. America's love for guns is well known. What is equally obvious is its reluctance to crack down on gun violence. Gun control is a deeply divisive issue in the United States. And as mass shootings continue unabated, the biggest casualty seems to be school children. I visited a shooting range in Virginia to find out why guns are so integral to the American identity and to better understand America's toxic love affair with its guns. Here's a report. It is a weekday in America. Most Americans are at work, but not these. These men and women chose to come to a gun range instead to practice their shooting skills. We are in Richmond, some 40 miles from Washington, D.C. This is the capital of the American state of Virginia. And we're here at a shooting range. We'll speak to people here to try to understand why the average American takes up guns. Guns are a divisive subject in the U.S. But at this gun range in Virginia, there is no ambiguity or debate. Guns are a way of life here, a social glue that binds communities together. And this fact hits you at the entrance door itself. Look at this. This is an ad for a gun, Glock firearms. And nowhere else have I seen something like this, ads for firearms and weapons so openly and frequently displayed in civilian spaces. This is America for you. It's a country which has more guns than people, which has had more than one incident of mass shooting every day in this year. Guns are a very politically divisive issue and a very important issue in America. This is the only country, I think, which has such frequent incidents of school shootings, and yet this is a subject that continues to divide American people, and they have very strong opinions on whether or not they should have the right to bear arms. Despite all the gun violence and repeated instances of deadly mass shootings, there is no change in the attitude of gun owners. For most, owning a gun is a necessity, including our trainer of the day, David Phillips.
So you guys are going to need to rent safety goggles once or to go onto the range. You and I are fine. It'll reflect.
He's 67 years old, worked as a software developer for 3 decades, served in the Navy for a brief while, and is now a granddad and a gun trainer. Phillips takes us inside the gun range. We are greeted with sounds of gunfire and messages from pro-gun lobbies. Buy a gun for America. Guns save lives. For God and country. Stickers like these can be found everywhere. At the counter, there are guns of all shapes and sizes, of all descriptions.
I've been using these since 45 years ago in the Navy, and they work really well. So you get them as small as you can, and then I always find it easier to pull back on your ear.
Our trainer has picked a range. He asks us to cover our ears before entering the firing zone.
For you, it's a double lock door.
As the doors open, the sound of gunfire gets louder. Empty bullet shells are flying in every direction. Our crew cautiously makes its way to range number 13. Phillips wastes no time. He swiftly loads his magazine and starts shooting. He insists that we give it a shot too.
All right, room. Here, I had to put that in the center of that little knot.
It's way off the mark, though. We know we are better off shooting questions than bullets.
Sometimes.
The whole experience is a bit unsettling, to see people casually firing weapons like it were a game of ping pong. But for Phillips, it's second nature. He started shooting at the age of 11. He began training his son at the age of 6. Did it at any point occur to you that it may be strange or odd for an 11-year-old to be handling an actual gun and learning to shoot it?
No. And the reason for that is I was always under my father's very close supervision. And with a rifle especially, if I started to swing it, so with a handgun...
No, I get the safety part,
Yeah.
but I'm saying that as a concept...
No. It was had paper targets downrange, and it was just a skill. It's an Olympic sport.
It is, but not for kids.
Not for kids, but not many kids are in the Olympics either.
Our conversation, in a nutshell, captures America's gun debate. A large section of people are convinced that guns should be a part of daily life. No wonder this country has more guns than people. Last year, there were almost 400 million guns in circulation. That's 120 guns for every 100 Americans, the highest rate in the world. The number of gun owners is still rising. The reason is the fractured nature of America's politics. More and more Americans now want firearms. Their demand rose during the pandemic, when close to 60 million guns were sold to Americans. Phillips meets many of these new gun owners. He leads training for the Liberal Gun Club. It's a group of left-leaning gun owners, and their tribe is growing.
It's upstairs. It sounds like it's upstairs.
With the surge in violence and mass shootings and the impasse over gun regulation, the left believes that being armed is now vital. Trainers like Phillips take the argument a step further. They link gun ownership to fundamental rights.
Self-defense is a human right. The potential victim has the human right to respond with force in kind. There are about 400 million firearms in the United States.
You think that should change?
No. Yes, more.
There should be more?
Sure.
Why?
And the reason is there are about 600,000 negative outcomes, and that includes homicides, suicides, accidents. And when you take 600,000 and you divide it by 400 million, that's a very, 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 very small percentage of negative outcomes.
So far, that hasn't been the case. We are midway through 2023, and the tally for mass shootings has crossed the 300 mark. If the present trend continues, the US could set a new record. 2023 will be the worst year in recent memory for gun violence. The fact is, more guns are not helping America. They're feeding into the epidemic of violence.